All right, got the fire going, much better. But just got delivery. Touch base back on the Scrambler here. We got some of the decals off. Still working on this one here, and got the other side. But man, you guys really did not want to see all of that going on because it took absolutely forever. So again, as you guys could see here, I did go ahead and take out the screws, so I have them there, screws and nuts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up the black really good as well while I'm at it, but this gives me an even surface that I can kind of keep sanding on. I did manage to get a lot of that orange stuff off, whatever that was, but I haven't, this is just dry sanding, haven't wet sanded anything or wiped it down yet. So you can already see the difference of smoothness here. So we're going to keep going over this with 220 and working our way up 400, 800 and keep on going from there. So we really get it smoothed out. Same with these back plastics. I feel like we can get a lot of this heavy scratches out. Obviously that's a hole, we're not going to fix that unless we put something in place of it. But also I'm going to work on taking the bolt heads, and I'm going to take the wire wheel to them first, see how they clean up before I paint them black. I don't like painting stuff like that just for the simple fact that it chips when you try to put it back on. However, it is good to kind of mitigate rust and things like that. So we're going to keep working on this. We'll touch base back here in a second. Again, you guys do not want to see the boring process of me taking off decals because, let me tell you, it was a lot. But, you know, who needs warning decals on, you know, used quad? Obviously, you know, the risk of riding a quad underage or, you know, without proper protection. So, also, new helmets should be here shortly. So, that'll be good. So, we can kind of test startup, everything like that. Oh, the surprise delivery. So what we got delivered. So this is the fuel filters that I was speaking of earlier. They look almost identical to the one that I took off. So I'm pretty excited of getting that back on. We're going to cut up some fuel line, get it all measured out, get the fuel filter on. I'm going to keep working on some plastics until I just get tired of that. So we'll work on fuel first. We will continue on plastics, and then kind of bolt everything back up, at least on the front end, and see how far we get today. So we might not be riding today. Stay tuned, because if we're riding tomorrow, ain't no big deal. I'm excited as just much as you guys are to get this thing back up and running. Trust me, it's been down for a couple weeks, and I've kind of put it off on the back burner messing with the Can-Am back there. But we'll get some ride time in here soon, and be able to get them both at least back on the driveway and test them out before we hit the trails. So here we go, giving you guys a look. We got the new blue fuel line in. Never used these fuel lines, so I don't know how they're gonna do, but we'll see. And let's see if we can get you guys up in there, take a look. New fuel filter at the shutoff valve. There's probably fuel in this line right here where the other shutoff valve is, because you have that one and then you have that one. But hey, we got the fuel line on, so we're going to continue working on the body after I get the air box on and get it all bolted up. So we'll have that. And one other thing I did while we were lubing that clutch cable up was the Polaris cover here. I ended up hitting it with just a little bit of the Griot's Garage, I think it's Black Shine, so kind of brought it back to life. I mean, it soaked it in. I mean, it was literally bubbling. So I need to get another screw-on nut here, because the actual choke for it is right here, and I believe somebody at one point, I don't know if we can see that right here, cut out a hole for this, which is incorrect. This should actually be through this hole right here, and then the nut goes on. All right, so yeah, you are seeing that correctly. We got all of the screws out. We've done a lot of sanding on this, trying to smooth this out, these deep gashes and these holes. Not really gonna get to. I was thinking about epoxying or JB welding this. Not really gonna be worrying about it with the way that we're going. We do need this back plastic off, because the front plastic's off because it's sitting right there. Now, did uncover this as well, which is a great surprise whenever we dug into it. So we got the Gold Series FMF gnarly exhaust system on there. I knew that it was aftermarket because of that muffler or resistor, however you want to call it, but I didn't know that it was going to be that. So great surprise in regards to the build. And let me tell you, when this thing does run, because it wasn't running that great last time we had it running, it's loud. So we're gonna get back to it. We got a couple things still coming, but all in all, we should be able to get pretty close to par. I thought that we were gonna do the plastic restoration kit on here, but again, as you guys saw on the middle nose piece, really whatever you want to call it, middle cover, that plastic restore kit still has it pink. So we're gonna sand that one down. I'm gonna do pretty much what everybody says don't do, but interestingly enough, I talked to one of the local guys at the Can-Am dealer when we were there picking up the key for the Outlander, which if you haven't seen that video, I'll make sure it's tagged up in there and in the description, so definitely go check that one out. But they actually said, honestly, take a heat gun to it. We got a can of SC1. They said while it's a little warm, hit it with the SC1, let it really soak in and really bring the red back out, because it's red all the way through, right? But the sun damage has just baked it out, and that restoration kit is just going to keep it pink. So again, being that it's an older one, we're going to test it out. It's going to be our test dummy. We'll test it out. Don't really know what I want to do with the decals yet, if I want to leave it a blank slate for the next owner, but it'll just be, you know, less time we have to spend on that, more time we can actually spend on getting these together, because like I said in one of the previous videos, we're going to end up lining these up, and we really want to see kind of what power this thing makes against newer generation 4-strokes that are twice the power. So you guys just have to stay tuned for that. So yeah, let's get it. Alrighty guys, so lights on. Time to get the back plastic off. We shouldn't have this one bolt here to get the back plastic off. We'll just make sure everything is scopocetic here. I have to sit that piece of plastic, or that front plastic, closer to the wood stove, and same with the rear, still on opposite sides, but not too close so they don't melt themselves. Then we'll go grab the heat gun and we'll get to work and kind of see what we can come up with. We'll test a small spot first, kind of see what we come up with, and then we'll work our way from there.
Never break, always fight, never quit.
Alright, so we have our little Harbor Freight special heat gun right here. I actually borrowed this from a family friend because I don't have a heat gun. Maybe I need one. I need a soldering gun too, now that I think of it. But either way, it's for another time. We're going to go ahead and get this hooked up. Like I said, start on... why don't we just start on the back plastic? We'll start like under the seat area, and then we'll kind of give you guys an update of what that looks like, so that way if we do mess something up, it's not crucial. So stay tuned for that, and we'll keep rolling.
Do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life. I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light. Ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel, I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real, but how's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel?
Alright guys, so we are coming up on an hour of doing this, but no shot. Check this out. So you guys can see it in a couple different parts, but that's how it was before and that's how it is now. It is unreal, the difference. We're still working on it. We're doing side to side because this plastic right here, if you get it too hot, it's got a memory obviously that it sits on the quad. So once we get it all kind of starting to get buttoned back up, we might have to hit it with a little bit of heat, kind of get them back in the right spots. And yeah, just taking your time with it is the biggest thing from what I'm seeing here. Again, this is my first time doing this, but if you've made it this far and you haven't checked out any other videos, I'll make sure that part 1 of the Polaris project is above. I feel like if somebody's got faded plastics and their plastics still aren't shiny, but they're just a little rough and they can't sand them and redo them with the plastic renew, so far this is coming out to be the perfect way to go. Again, it takes time, because if not, you'll bubble out parts, you'll warp parts, and it's just good to take your time with it. Now, last but not least, I do want to give credit where credit's due. Apologies to my wife, because she was actually the first one to say, you know, you should hit it with the heat gun, and I was like, no, everything I'm reading, you know, you don't want to do that. But I mean, she had watched other tutorials on it, and then she had done some research on it, and she was like, just take your time with it. She knows I'm not a patient person, so shout out to my wife. Thank you. And again, I guess it just took reassurance from someone at the dealership saying heat gun, man. And you know, obviously us, we don't want to listen to our spouses, right? So without further ado, we're going to keep going with it. I'm going to try and finish the back plastic. We're going to get the fooler out. We're going to try and clean it up some outside as well. So stay tuned.
They wanna say my name, but they holding back. They wanna say they hate, but they know it's cap. I ain't play no games, I just do that's fact. And I don't feel no shame, it's a mood you lack. I go crazy, nah bitch I ain't lazy. Track after track, I work on this shit daily. Pass me the jack, right as fuel, got me hazy. About to unpack all these things I've been chasing. I've got visions in my head, like memories after death. To be a legend instead of something you can forget. I'm living up every breath, I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread with every word that I've said. How's it supposed to feel?
Ladies and gents, thank you for tuning back in. It is finally time. We need to get some things back together on the Scrambler to kind of clean up this mess, because I kind of redid more than I expected that I was going to do. So we ended up getting the air box back on here. I did end up taping a bunch of stuff off and covering it up and grinding a lot of the frame down and this back rail to kind of just throw some Rust-Oleum on it, because there was some spots like this, just like surface rust and some paint flaking off, and I really wanted to grind that down here and make sure that, you know, eventually whoever gets this has a really quality sound quad, and that we kind of seal as much of the surface rust, because you know, these things get ridden hard and sometimes get put up wet like this one. But another thing that we did do while we have the front plastic off is we went ahead and did the steering stem stabilizing grommet, gasket, whatever you want to call it. There's just two 13mm bolts and nuts right here that come off on the front plate, if you can see right there. I got the new GoPro light in, but don't have it on there yet. So went ahead and did that. I'll actually put a photo right now kind of what the old one looked like compared to the new one, so you can see the difference. It's just unreal of how that was honed out. Now you push up on it and there's no play in it. The little bit of play that's in there is in the bottom where the tie rods are, so can't do much about that. I mean, you really tighten it, but you don't want it too tight to where you break something. So anywho, we are gonna go ahead and do this in a few day part, because I don't know if I showed you before. Come over here with me. So again, this was broken whenever I bought the quad. Really, it goes up in here and gets welded across that and across the bottom, and then there's a brace that goes across right here. So once we clean up all this mess, kind of start putting the back end back together and get some hardware on it, my brother's gonna come over. I'm gonna take my grinder, a grinding tool, and hook it up to my air compressor, kind of clean all of these joints up some, so when he comes to weld everything, it'll be good, ready to go, and kind of bend this back into place so it's not so much pressure on it. And then from there we can kind of mock up everything on the front that goes back there, and finally put the front plastics back on. We'll reheat the center piece that goes across and put it all back together. Man, I have got a mess around this garage, but we're gonna get it cleaned up. And then from there, we will go ahead and put the grips on. We got grip glue. You guys saw the new Moose grips that we went to the dealership and got when we got the new key program for the Outlander. And again, if you haven't seen that video, make sure that it's up here so you can check that out. It's unreal that it costs $100 for a key for a four-wheeler. That's just crazy to me. But hey, hand it to Can-Am. If they're going to throw that safety feature in there, and security feature, whatever, good on them. So we'll go ahead and start kind of just putting things back together, piecing it all back together, and then stay tuned for test riding at the end. You guys are going to love it. I mean, this thing is just gnarly. And go from there. So let's get it.
Supposed to feel